What is up, Dans, Daves, and everybody in between? It is week 11 on a Dave and a Dan. And you know, every once in a while when it comes to bets, you go from hot, and then there's that cool-off period. There's like this warning shot period where you're like, oh, no, I think I had a pretty good night. What am I, $5 up, $5 down? But that's your warning that things are starting to head the other way. And I think that's just what happened in week 10. It wasn't a full sweep from Vegas, but after a stretch to be remembered for every regular guy who goes to the beach wearing flip-flops with a towel around his neck and the little sunblock on his nose with the glasses and the string, it was an unbelievable run for the Dans out there. But as we highlighted some of those donkey chart plays last week, specifically Detroit, where I was, you know, they're better than 3-point favorites. 5 interceptions for Goff, and I hate that number 3.5. On my video today, I said, you know how 666 is associated with a certain red guy? You just have to associate that number. Well, I always will associate 3.5 with the rat. And I think this last week 10 was that week where we're starting to see that shift. Vegas needs their money back because, as I just saw, I saw a tweet, if you can pull that up, something about DraftKings. The NFL public is up so much this season that DraftKings was forced to increase revenue guidance for the 2025 fiscal year by about $250 million. And they chalked it up to, quote, customer-friendly sport outcomes. And for the purpose of this show, you can replace customer-friendly with Dan. Dan-friendly sport outcomes have been the story here in 2024 for the NFL season. What direction is it going to head? I don't know. I think last week was that little tilt towards the Daves of the world. Speaking of which, Dave, how's it going? Hope your week is going well. How did your week I would imagine it went relatively well for you.
Yeah, man, good from a sides perspective because we were on, the Texans got nailed to the metaphorical wall for that one, but more so for the Saints. They got the win outright. Pittsburgh money line, take it. Denver, just keep betting against Mahomes as a big favorite. Props, not as great. Took some long shots. None of them played out. Low scoring week. So, as somebody like yourself who doesn't enjoy the touchdown props much, that would have worked out better for you than it did for me. The problem was in week 10, nobody scored any touchdowns. So that hurt a little bit. Usually when I do
Dan's love touchdown bets as well. So they must have taken a beating.
So what I usually do in the Discord, I'll throw out like one. It's a lotto ticket. We know that. We hit one this season. It basically bankrolls you if you hit one. But usually, like at the very least, we get 2 out of 4 on the round robin, and then it's a parlay, bet them by 2s, 3s, parlay, and straights. And I went 0 for 4 on touchdowns last week. It was one of those weeks, but you can make up for it with sides. A lot of the Dans, would have done well if they grabbed the Eagles, Chargers, which, they rolled, right? But if you took teams like the Saints, if you took teams like the Chiefs, if you took teams like the Lions, Lions ended up winning straight up, but that doesn't do anything for you when they don't cover the 3.5. The day ends up not looking quite as good. So we'll take what we win, we'll take what we lose, roll it into week 11, and see if we can bounce back strong.
So what I did this week, not by choice, it's just the way that it kind of leaned. I didn't even take a look at a single spread because before the show last week, I looked with Alex and I was like, I bet you that's going to be a rat. I bet you that's going to be a rat. Then we had the donkey chart. So I didn't look at a single spread this week. So we're going to just quickly scroll through some of the games, and I'm going to see if I can just call out which ones are going to be the full Dan regular guy, go to the beach with. Why did they just put a little was it extra sunscreen on the nose? Or did they just put that white sun? You know what I'm talking about, right? You watch a movie, the guy's got the sunscreen on the nose with the shades and the string around.
The nose require quick? You never had like the rest of your face gets a nice shade of golden bronze, and then the nose starts to get a little bit inflamed there from the sun. I mean, it looks ridiculous, but I think it serves a purpose.
So just
That's overboard. That's over. Just at that stage, you should just wear the glasses with the fake nose.
just to clarify, do you have an initial layer? Is there some on the face and then the huge? Okay, look, as
I'm
a guy
Irish.
with it, I was about to say, as a guy with a decent amount of skin pigment inherent to me, I never stressed much about the burn because the burn didn't destroy me. It'd be a little red that night, and I'd be essentially a different race the next day. I would start a vacation, mostly Caucasian, you know, a little blendish like I look now. Then I'd be a full Latino by day 2 or 3. And then I'm bordering African by the end of the trip. So that's kind of how a standard trip to. And if you don't think that's true, don't make me bust out the pictures.
You've dug yourself a deep enough hole at this point. Keep on going, brother. Yeah, with me, it's a whole lot different. With me, like my wife will burn and then wake up the next day and it's gone. I'll burn, wake up the next day, and it's hard to walk. So that's just the way it is. Like I'll get tan, but it's a process, one that's not really worth it. I'm not gingerfied to the point where, like, if I see this, I'm not vampiric, you know. But
Great word.
but
Great word.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like I could go out in the sun, I'm fine. But if I were to go into a beach without any type of protection and just sit in the sun, it's like my vacation is over.
That
That's
sounds
the
like an
level.
online dating prompt. Like when someone's like, explain something about your looks. Pale, but not vampiric. Alex, give me those spreads again. All right, so Commanders, Eagles, we're going to skip past that. Odds are that game is already done. Ravens, Steelers, -3.5, the spread of the rat. Look, my guess is people are on Ravens, but the Steelers have such a good record, I could see why people would want to take a home dog +3.5 as well. So I don't think that will be a full rat.
I did bet
Vikings,
the Steelers here.
a home team, home dog in a division matchup, which are usually decided by 3, always would go. I mean, every last thing, if you just want to, you know how people play blackjack and they're like, well, you know, it's a this, that, and the other. You got to split that. Those are the rules. The Jamie Kennedy rules in Scream. You're getting the home team +3.5 division matchup. I don't even have to think about that. That's the easiest thing ever. If it was flipped, that's when I'm in a pickle. If
Definitely.
the Steelers were -3.5, or if this was in Baltimore and Baltimore was -3.5, that's when I'm in a pickle. So Vikings, Titans, my guess is, even though the Vikings were god-awful, they happened to cover last week. So by hook or by crook, they got there. A guy who just clicked it, didn't even watch any of the games, he's excited to click that again. That's definitely a potential for the donkey charts right there. This one's got it. These, I think, are the lower end donkey charts play. I think Rams are a lower end donkey charts, like, 68 to 72%. Browns, Saints, what is that, a pick 'em?
Yeah, I did bet this one. I bet the money line at even money. That's moving towards Cleveland too. So I don't think this will register on the donkey charts personally.
No, it will not. Colts, Jets. This is another difficult one because I know people, regardless of the record, regardless of what's been happening, they continue to bet the Jets, including last week. And I would have been one of those donkeys, as I told you guys. The spread last week moved from like Jets underdogs to like Jets -1, Jets -2. The question is, have they screwed so many people that now finally, they're going to go to Anthony Richardson? Oof. That one shouldn't appear on the donkey charts. Packers, Bears, the home team in a division game getting +5.5 points. That's absolutely the right side. I would imagine if Caleb Williams, I know that, what was the thing with his teammates calling for him to be benched for a game or something? I don't know, other than
crazy. And they got rid of Shane Waldron. I actually, so I grabbed this one threw this play in at Bears 6.5. So I assume this line movement comes as a result of Waldron getting fired and all that stuff, but 5.5 makes it a little bit tougher. At 6.5, it just looked obvious that you kind of have to bet the Bears in that spot. And I'm sorry to mess up your flow here, but
there is no flow. There's
right,
a grand total of zero flow.
Perfect. When you looked at Houston last week, and I could be, look, in an alternate universe, I might not even be talking about this. I could be saying this because this is how betting goes, talking about like 50-50 propositions. I could be saying, man, here we go again. I lost betting against Detroit, like just the way it is. But last week, it just seemed like the sentiment on Houston had gone so far in one direction. Like if that was a week 1 game, and I know Nico was out, but if that was a week 1 game, it's probably a pick 'em. Houston might even be a slight favorite in that game. So as bad as the Bears have been, should they be a 6.5 point home dog in a divisional spot? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. Like, has there been an overreaction to the point where evaluating the matchup itself, divisional game, back up against the wall, should they be this much of a dog? If your answer is yes, then you bet the Packers.
That's another tough one to call. These donkey charts, they may not be flowing with high numbers this week from what I'm seeing. Next, a 14-point spread. Highly unlikely that a team who just lost public bettors their money are about to get a click minus 14.
I think
but you never know. Oh, yeah, I was about to say, you never know.
But they were 13 the other day. Again, so I grabbed them at 13 thinking, look, this Jags team is so bad. Mac Jones stunk. So I just want to clarify, when we're looking at these donkey charts, as well as I do, because you and I have talked about this a lot on the show, this is the amount of tickets on the team throughout every spread, right? And not just the 14 here, but the 13 as well, which moved it to 14. So if we factor in the 13 from earlier in the week, maybe this is on the donkey charts, and I'd be a donkey here.
Alex, off to the side while we're talking about these other ones, what just popped out to me was David Montgomery, who didn't get a lot of run last week, just kind of how the game went. Maybe, if we're lucky, and don't pull it up yet, we'll revisit it. Maybe we don't get the worst rushing total on him, but in a game where they're supposed to be 14-point favorites, my first thought is, okay, imposing their will with the offensive line, a ton of runs once they're up by 2-3 touchdowns. They don't mind giving those extra carries. They'd rather give extra carries to Montgomery's body, who can handle something like that, a week after giving Jahmyr Gibbs 20 whatever carries or almost 28 touches.
18 carries, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot of work to give to a skinny little guy there. Next week could be a Montgomery week. So maybe because of the bad week last week, his number came down a little bit. We will see shortly when we're done with these spreads. But that's just something I wanted to have off to the side. Raiders, Dolphins. If that was 6.5, I would say it's going to get a lot of clicks. That's a pretty big number. I think, I think Dan's, they just put on their American Gladiators helmet and they go, what, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5? It's Dolphins all the way up to 10.
They did it with the Chargers last week. We saw it on the list. We saw it in the tweet. The Chargers were on the donkey list. They won.
All right, so Dolphins could be a 68. I haven't seen one 80+ percenter in my opinion.
I love this next one. I think this could be it. I might be way off base. I love this one. Tell me people after seeing the Broncos go down to the wire with the Chiefs last week, seeing the Falcons lose to the Saints, thinking they're a paper tiger. To me, this is the trappiest line of the week. Seeing Denver at home, inside of a field goal. If I'm betting this game, it's the Falcons. This feels like, Andy, tell me all of the circumstances don't come together and be like, wow, what a trappy game this feels like.
I would say that if Denver was more of a, I feel like the public doesn't like clicking Denver, like rookie Bo Nix.
I don't know.
You could be right, but I think they're happier to click Falcons just generally if these two teams weren't playing each other. If the Falcons were at home this week and minus 2.5 point favorites, and Denver was at home against a different team minus 2.5 point favorites, and they had to choose one team to go with without knowing the opponent, I feel like they would go Falcons. I just think that maybe it's just a thought, but I don't
Have
think
you
those
looked at the
donkey
list
charts are going
already?
to show. I have not. That's the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm trying to see which one stood out, because last week I was like Peyton Manning behind the line of scrimmage. Like, oh, that's going to be a rat. That's going to be a rat. That's going to be 80%. That's going to be this week. This is like the amoeba defense. I don't know what's going on. I can't read the charts properly. Let's keep going and see if there's anything that stands out. Seattle Niners. Christian McCaffrey back. Niners couple wins in a row.
This one's tough for me. I think more of the tickets would be on the Niners because you're getting them inside 7.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
I still don't think it will get more. That one can get maybe up to 70. Here we go. Here's one. The Chiefs have beat the Bills every year in the playoffs. What, 3 out of 4 years now? But the weird kind of glitch in that matrix is Buffalo continues to beat Kansas City in every single regular season matchup, I think, the previous 3 years. Believe they've beat them 3 straight games, and a couple of those were in prime time. This is one I think everyone's going Chiefs. Just because all the playoff games. Did you see Mahomes up there in the playoffs? Did he look nervous? Do I look nervous? Give me the Chiefs +2.
You think so?
They beat the Bills every time. They're undefeated. You have an undefeated team at +2. Alex, I'm asking you to come in. You're a regular ass guy in a great way. I don't want to hire weird people to do this stuff. Look at Alex. He's a nice guy. His place, he's got a plant. Everything's lit well. That's a regular guy in his regular apartment with a standard set of AirPods. Those aren't the AirPod Pros. Those are standard AirPods.
Neither are mine. The AirPod Pros stink. I've had 6 of these so far. I stick with the Gen 2. They fit your ears better, and I don't want noise cancellation. I'm with you, brother.
Hey, I love them. Nice and easy. Good for the work calls. First
of all, do you put any of the lotion on your nose?
I don't do the lotion. What I do is I show up to the beach without sunscreen, and then I come home looking like a lobster. That's my problem. That's my biggest problem.
All right. So if I give you $100, you don't have to. It's not your money, so it's not like you have to sweat like, oh my god, and maybe that will change how you think. If someone goes, hey, I got $100 free for you. What are you going to put it on in this game?
If this was +3.5, I'd be on the Chiefs because they keep every game close. I would be taking the Bills at -2.
I'm sorry, but that's knowledge. That's knowledge learned here. Like Dave has pointed out so many times that Mahomes is not good in, as a big favorite and stuff like that. And I just feel like your knowledge is skewed. But then why'd I even ask you to come in here? I'm an asshole. You're correct. So if you're more indicative of the public, then I guess they're going to be about the Bill. How is that possible? You've seen all the playoff games. Why would people be taking the Bills?
I think, thanks, Alex. I think there's just this Chiefs can't. If I had to try to channel that mentality, right? It is Chiefs can't keep winning. Chiefs can't keep winning. But then there's the other people that go like, well, no, the refs, you should see the comments on my video from yesterday for all the games for Sunday. When I said they got some black magic working for them, people are like, it's not black magic. It's black and white. You know what I mean? It's the black and white stripes. But
that's exactly why they blocked a kick. That's exactly why the kick was blocked.
It was a wonderfully executed blocked kick. But still, something always works for them. You got all these injuries. Amari Cooper might not play. Keon Coleman's already ruled out. Dalton Kincaid is probably not play. This might just be a spot where you ladder up rushing yards on Josh Allen or something. We can talk about it. But also, Mahomes is 12-1-1 against the spread all time as an underdog. He is 11-3 straight up. Those are just stupid numbers, and I'm not even a trends guy. Just crazy. 12-1-1 as an underdog. Whenever you think the Chiefs can't keep winning, they can't keep getting away with this, they just keep getting away with it.
My gut tells me, I feel like the Bills are going to find a way to win again and then lose again to them in the playoffs.
You know what? You could definitely be right. You could absolutely.
But all
be
those
right.
injuries. Oh my God. Weirdly enough, Alex, I'm in there with you. I would prefer the Chiefs at plus 3.5. So maybe there's something I could find in there. Another thing I want you to have pulled to the side outside of the David Montgomery rushing yards. Every single week since he's went down, Travis Kelce has become the alpha once again in this system. DeAndre Hopkins, while he occupies a lot of that same space on the field, you didn't see as much from him last week, and he'll probably go up and down. Yet even when Hopkins had the big week, Kelce also had a bigger week. He went over last week. He continues to go over his total. My guess is they probably moved it up where I don't really feel comfortable. Last week it was 58.5. It's been 50s, 50s, 50s. My guess is they finally moved it up to like 63 or 64. We'll see right after this. Sunday night, essentially a pick-em Bengals Chargers. No, these are just two. I don't see, just because of the Bengals record, everyone taking the Chargers. And then what's that last one? Monday Night Football. Texans.
I think Chargers might be chalk.
Texans, Cowboys.
I'm
Jesus
chomping at
Christ.
that's going to be Texans. Texans there might be more tickets on the Texans than any team this week.
What were you about to
chomping at the
say?
bit.
You're chomping at the bit?
Well, really, it's champing at the bit.
Champing of that. Okay.
But the reason.
One less.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Real quick. Is because you'll get people in the comments going, hey, who's this asshole that said champing at the bit? It's chomping at the bit. And then I have to explain to them. I don't bother. They're interchangeable. You can use both. In accordance with modern day English, I'll go chomping at the bit. But no, that wasn't lost on me.
That's a great point out, because I was going to not do a correction, but I was going to say one of the commonly misused terms, something that we've just morphed and then it's been accepted, kind of like biding your time, which a lot of people say I'm buying my time, and it's supposed to be biding, used depending on how it's used. Anyway, Alex, something that was requested, and I want to go back to it. I forgot to tell you. So at some point while we're talking about something, I want to guess another saying. So if you can come up with a saying by the end of the show, that's very much appreciated. But before then, let's go to those donkey charts. Those early games, those first couple ones I thought maybe were around 70. Wow. Okay, so my first thought is interesting that the Chiefs or Bills not on this chart.
Bengals are.
Vikings are.
Yep.
That was one that I thought might be up there. 79% seems a little bit high. I didn't think people would go that high on Lions. You did. Texans was that Monday night game. You said everyone's going to be clicking them. The Packers is a little interesting. That's interesting. 84%. I didn't think people would be that excited. I guess now, looking at how bad Chicago's played, that makes sense. Anytime you get some sort of firing, some coach changing, as you saw last week with New Orleans, you really could be playing with fire. And it's interesting to see now people are finally betting against the Jets, which means this is probably the time the Jets, for the second time in 3 weeks, are going to screw you. We know they screwed you against Houston. So then what did you do? You bet against Houston, and then you got screwed because Houston covered. You can't be chasing the previous week results, which is something that Dave tried to tell you last week. So just something to know. A week after the warning shot was fired, knowing that these rats might start coming out of the sewers, and it might start happening this week really more frequently than it has so far.
I'm surprised by the
season.
Bengals. Honestly, I'm surprised. I thought it would be the other way around. 73% on the Bengals is it? Maybe people just don't buy into the chart. I was leaning Bengals too. Makes me think Chargers could be the right side of this game, because I might have just read it all wrong. If I thought Chargers were going to be a popular team, whereas their opponent's the fifth most popular team.
The Bengals have turned into the Chargers. They've invented ways to lose all these games regardless of what happens.
How about Harbaugh turning things around, though? I mean, it's beautiful what they're doing out there in LA. I'm a big fan.
It's working out great for me. If you remember early in the season, I told you that I took them to be a wild card team at plus 280 because I thought it was too much of a mountain to climb to overtake the Chiefs as a division winner. So I specifically chose that wild card bet.
Love it.
And that's looking pretty good so far with Harbaugh.
And I bet I bet the alt win total at 10.5 too. So that would be nice.
Let me see those two props that I asked you to pull up to the side if you have them handy. If not, we could find them. The first was the David Montgomery rushing yard. So
it's not up. I looked. Only the pick'em sites have it right now.
are these more or less going to be close?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes prize picks can be a bit off, but 64.5. I don't know. Ask yourself. It seems pretty reasonable to me, though.
It's reasonable. I was hoping 58.5. So not
maybe it's a little lower. A lot of times I think these pick'em sites are, you might be right. I think a lot of times these pick'em sites are more than willing to post lines before other books, and they just set them higher, right? Like they just, when in doubt, set it higher, and then people are going to bet the over anyway, right? And then they can bring it down throughout the week. But people are going to see a number. If they like someone, they don't really care. They just bet the over. So that's what I think. Maybe it will be. Maybe it'll be like 60.5.
And then the second one that I asked you to queue up to the side, I believe was Travis Kelce. And there it is, mid 60s to upper 60s. I'm sorry, gents. It's too much for me. It's too rich for my blood. I told you I can only see the band when they're playing at the Troubadour or some other, I don't know. I don't frequent a lot of these venues. There was a place called, they got rid of it, CBGB's. Does that sound familiar? CBGB's, where there used to be like low-key bands playing. And I think maybe it's closed down. I think that's the name of it.
I've never been there. I don't even know where it is, but I'm familiar with the name.
I'm looking for the bands at CBGB's and not 65.5 receiving yards for. Wait a minute. This is where the bands were playing? Is that really it? And kudos to pulling that one up so quick. So, in real life, I don't want to see those guys at CBGB's, but in real life, I'm also not taking this Kelce. Although it's always tempting, it's always alluring. 65.5 is too rich for my blood. Remember, there was a point of the season we couldn't get this guy to 39. So it's not like he's another guy who went over his total in the 30s and they won't raise him to the 40s. We're renaming the show to a Dave and a Demario. So he gets to 50 last week. So now this is 3 straight weeks. He's cleared his receiving total. So now it's got to go up to 40, right? 42, 43. Right before this show, I took a quick peek. It's 31.5. I'm sorry, folks, for bringing up a random ass guy who means nothing to so many people. Maybe nobody's betting on it, so they're like, "Wait, what did the Patriots do? Who are their receiver?" Just throw it at 31. I don't know what the hell. I don't know who this guy is. 31.5. Interesting little discrepancy there between the 31.5 and the 34.5. Clearly, some people have been stacking chips on Demario on FanDuel. They're aware of it. But the 31.5 over at BetMGM, I mean, guys, we're talking about 3 catches. It's such a low total. I'm getting back on. I'm hopping back on for the 4th straight week. I don't think I'm going to futz around with alts. This is so low. I may shift whatever alt money was going to go on it just to that over 31.5. Are you opposed, or is this just like, all right, man, whatever floats your boat?
I'm not opposed, but I'm kind of opposed. And here's why. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, but with somebody else for New England. K.Boutte. Hear me out. Hear me out. This guy's played 96 and 97% of snaps over the last 2 weeks. He's running a route on 100% of dropbacks. So if you look at his targets per route run, you're like, oh, it's not great. It's at like 17%. But then you go, wait, the guy's literally on the field for every play of the game. Gerard Mayo already told Kendrick Bourne that he probably won't be playing because they want to get work to the younger fellas. And it seems like Boutte is the type of guy right now that's just getting all of the work. Now, again, it's not like he has a 30% target share, but what's his prop at? 32? Probably
Same
right
thing,
around.
same area. Dave, we can have one of those emoji handshakes. I can take my guy. You can take your guy. If Drake May throws for 111 yards, we may clear it comfortably. Like, that's what we're talking about here.
Right. Maybe we Maybe we SGP Demario and Boutte and throw a Drake May
You
in
can
there
get
as
you can
well.
get plus money on a same game parlay with both of them for 25 plus yards. If you took both of them for 25 plus yards, I bet you that puts you into plus money still, which is ridiculous. I mean,
Hold on.
Drake May, what is his passing prop at? It's not 84, I'll tell you that.
I'm pulling this up right now. Hold on. All right, so just getting Demario Douglas and Boutte over receiving yards, their actual prop is plus 198. But that's their standard prop.
Yeah.
So if you did it on Bet365, Boutte and Demario Douglas 25 plus each, that's a plus 142 leg parlay. Yeah, if you wanted 25 plus, you're getting plus 140 on Bet365 for both of those guys.
The one thing I will bring out to the it's rigged crowd, rather than focusing on, oh, it's rigged, it's the zebras, it's team black and white. How about we talk about things that actually happen that screw people, where there's actual true hardened evidence, one that you can actually open up a sports book like, oh yeah, they did screw us. Dave, remember when we kept looking for those little, oh yeah, give me that weird slightly 60.5, that's 63.5 on DraftKings, those slight alt overs on receiving? They're gone. Yeah. They're gone. And that's not why I bring it up. Those slight alt overs also had something that, if you guys remembered, I loved using the highest alt unders. I said, if you guys need a juice reducer, take the highest under on rushing yards for Alvin Kamara. It's gone. Fully removed from all their same game parlays. So any sort of clever under you may have sniffed out. The last one that I'm still aware that offers some sort of alt unders is Unibet, Bet Rivers, Ballybet, that whole Canby assortment. So that's a real one for you. You can take off your tinfoil hat, look out the window, open up your phone and say, oh yeah, I can't. But then again, I haven't bet an under since the beginning of time, so this is not something that I particularly have to worry about. One under that I did see that maybe does work out if you believe that the Chargers are going to pull that one out. Chargers have one of the top defenses in the NFL. Chase Brown, obviously getting 1 million touches, way more effective as a receiver last week, but with a good defense like the Chargers, I think his rushing total's coming in around 60. That's a primetime game, so we have some time to think about it, but I think I'm going to be leaning under, probably over on those receptions or receiving yards again, because now with an extra week, they will get another running back more involved to take away some of the carries. We know that he's going to be used in the passing game, as we saw last week. But don't be surprised if they take some of the rushing attempts off his table, because you know they don't want to give him as many carries as they have, since he is really the do-it-all guy for them now.
I was on Brown receiving yards last week as well, and that Baltimore last Thursday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
you just know that they're going to use him, and then Khalil Herbert, he was on the field twice. The only time he touched the ball, it was a fumbled exchange between him and Joe Burrow. He didn't see him again. So does he get worked in a little bit more? Sure, but he's not involved in the passing game. He's not a great pass blocker. Yeah, I hear you. I don't know what Brown – does Brown have a receiving prop up right now?
Yeah, but I'm more so focusing on the under on his rushing right now.
Right, I get that, but I'm saying if you think that they're going to try and utilize him similarly to what they did last week, would you consider both of those spots? Because he was on the field. 87% of snaps for a running back in today's football is insane.
Once again, what will dictate some of that for me is T. Higgins' status. I think the whole dynamic of that offense changes. I think the progressions of Joe Burrow are way likely to just immediately go underneath like we saw last week. If he doesn't have that dual threat out there, he's more likely to go through his progressions, and you can say, oh, this guy's just making this up. I laddered the receptions for Chase Brown last week. Once I got confirmation T. Higgins was out, we laddered it on my video, 5, 6, 7. He got up to like 9. So yeah. I am fully aware of the Chase Brown receiving potential. But what would really stamp that approval for me is if T. Higgins misses yet another game. Because when he gets in there, the same way Gesicki turns into a Pro Bowler when he's out of the lineup, as soon as he returns to the lineup, Gesicki sometimes is going catchless. So it all kind of changes with that extra T. Higgins piece moving into the lineup. So we will see his status before then. We have a couple days until then. A guy you've taken earlier, we took him last week. We hit him. I'm like, all right, they might have to go over 40 this week. They haven't. He's the running back of Captain Checkdowns himself. Alvin Kamara, upper 30s. He was mid to upper 30s last week. He cleared that. I know it's an extremely high total. Trust me. But there is no amount of times that Derek Carr is scared to check that ball down to his running back. We're seeing 37.5 on FanDuel. Is that too high for you?
This offense is just so bad.
That's a good thing. That's
It's
really a good
probably
thing.
not too high. You have no Olave. You have no Rashid Shaheed. Juwan Johnson's been a ghost. You would have hoped that he would, something would materialize there. It hasn't. MVS probably doesn't have another 100-yard, 2-touchdown game. They don't even have Bub Means at this point. Mason Tipton, right? Like Cedric Wilson. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. I said the same thing last week. Dave gave the same kind of rationale. Like, look, it's not the first thing I think of, but there's no this. In a game they played from mostly ahead, we still got to this over for Kamara. So, my guess is by Sunday, this will be 42, 43, 37.5. I can take that. And you guys know I'm not thrilled at high totals. And for a running back, this is like a guy being set at 82.5. So I've been making an exception for Kamara. I don't know how he stayed healthy with all these touches he's getting in that body frame. But that is one that kind of catches my attention. Is their run defense still as god-awful as it was a couple weeks ago when you brought up the stat of teams running for 500 yards over the course of 2 games? Is it still that bad? Has it gotten a little better?
Well, it can never remain that bad, right?
Yeah.
But it's still not good. I mean, you saw what Bijan did to him last week, right? Like Bijan went out and carved him up. Teams just keep doing that. He averaged almost 6 yards per attempt. That's what the Saints defense is. Do I think they're going to allow, 500 combined yards over the next pair of games? No, definitely not. But, man, you look at what Bijan and Algier did. It was like 31 carries for 175 yards or something like that. They both averaged well over 5.4 for Algier, 5.8 for Robinson. This is just a bad defense. But let's look. So they got, gassed by Denver. The Chargers had 122 rushing, not great. Carolina didn't do much on the ground against them, but that's the Panthers. Atlanta had 181. So, look, they're still bad, but they're not historically bad like they were. Why, you thinking Nick Chubb here?
Look, I said to you in that Chargers game 2 weeks ago, Chargers don't pull away from anybody. We saw Chubb get, 12 carries, 15 carries. So the workload thing, they're not scared to give him a bunch of carries. Derek Carr is a guy I know pulls away from nobody. This guy, the end of his life is going to be within 3 points either way. That's just the way it goes with this guy, whether they're up or behind. I don't see the Saints pulling far ahead. I mean, you can't with that roster. It's borderline impossible. And if this game is close, look, we won our Chubb over relatively easy, and then we hit the first alt. Only because we didn't hit the mega alts isn't a reason for me to shy away from that. It was a winning bet. It didn't get much higher. I think his rushing attempts are either 13.5 or 14.5, and I can take those. And yeah, I'm going to do 15, 17. The only question is if I have the balls to go 19. But with Derek Carr, that game, even with Jameis, should be within 3 points. If they're up, he's getting it. If not, maybe you could sweat. But remember, even in a game that they got beat down by the Chargers, he still got to 17 carries. So after a bye and some additional rest, His yardage total's at 58.5. I like him again. Sorry if this is a rinse and repeat, but a lot of the rinsing and repeating we're doing is with people who have already put money in your pockets. That's just kind of how I am.
I don't mind it at all. I like it more in this spot than I did in the previous spot. It's essentially a pick 'em, right? He hasn't been good. He's clearly not.
He's awful. Awful.
Yeah, he hasn't been good. Maybe he'll get back to his former self. I don't know. But with the season in it's not even in flux anymore. Like it's pretty just over for them. But who knows? With it going the way it has, you probably, if they're willing to give him 16 carries or whatever it was the last game, coming off of a bye, I don't see why they wouldn't be willing to do it again. They need to establish the ground game if they're going to have any type of success. And against the Saints, you absolutely have to do that. Let's not forget, Cleveland's defense, the offensive line, like everything's been banged. They've had nothing go right for them this year. But coming off of this bye week, they're healthy. The only question is like one spot on the O-line. Aside from that, like they seem to be good. The defense is good. I think it was Delpit or Ward. One of them had a concussion. They're back. This whole defense, for the most part, is fully healthy. That's a big deal because if that's the case and you can limit scoring from the Saints, then you can run the ball even without a ton of success.
I had an interesting one that kind of caught my eye before. A.Estime, they put his rushing total in like the mid to 60s, I think, upper 60s. I know he got the work last week. That's, he had a couple long runs, and obviously Javonte Williams is a slug, but he still continued to see snaps. Are we sure this still isn't like a three-person backfield?
So I'll be honest with you. This is a spot I already bet the under on Estime. Could it just be like, wow, never mind. Look at him. Possibly, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was wrong about that. 58.5.
I still think 58.5 is a pretty big number here.
It is. He had one semi-breakout.
Yeah.
And they still rotated other running backs in.
And are we just assuming that Javonte he had one carry? Remember when you and I kind of luck boxed our way into the ladder over on rushing prop for Estime on that primetime game on that Thursday night? We talked about it on the show, right?
Yeah.
We got a little bit lucky. Let's be honest. He hardly played at all. And then he hit the 25 and then got another carry in a blowout. That's why he was and then he fumbled, right? And then he was done. That was the game where you and I are like, man, Javonte has done nothing. This guy's been terrible. He comes out and dominates. So can we really trust Sean Payton? I think Estime is going to get work. But this is the same. What's the rushing prop on like an Alvin Kamara this week? Dude, he has the same rushing prop on ESPN Bet, give or take a yard, as D.Achane, who has the Raiders this week.
That was another one that I wanted to go back to this week. It lost. But I thought they would give fewer carries to Mostert because of those damn fumbling issues. He didn't get a single carry. And he was asked about that, saying, oh, well, when you have good running back. No, I think that was a conscious choice. And if they're going to give Achane another chance with that many carries, I mean, he got stuffed every single time at that line of scrimmage for the most part. Give him another crack at that against a defense they might be able to exploit. He should be able to go over that one as well.
I'm just a huge fan of D.Achane for sure. Absolutely. Guy has real breakaway potential. What do you think his rushing plus receiving is this week?
It's going to be right around 100.
Yep, 102.5. I'm just saying, for a team that was like, they might run a three-headed monster with Achane and then Mostert and some Jeff Wilson, which has now become Jalen Wright, 102.5. This guy's awesome, and he underwhelmed last week, but guess what? Every book, there isn't a single book out there where you look at it and they're like, man, yeah, no, Achane, relegate him back to a role that isn't nearly as significant. No, everyone saw what we saw last week. The guy was out there he was out there more than he has been all season, and he's the number 2 receiver on this team right now, too.
Every dog has its day. I think that is one that we should try to guess right now. Every dog has its day. That qualifies as a good selection for this week?
Yeah. Yeah,
all right,
definitely.
so every dog has its day.
If you say it like that, you think it'll help you?
Yes. When it came to memorizing scripts and when it came to finding little things in like auditions and performances, if you just keep doing it the same way, it's just so stale. If you literally just try an English accent, anything, it will just give you a little tick that will inspire some new life into it. So sometimes,
you have a strong English accent?
No, it's awful.
Try it.
Just fuck off, you bugger. I like it's vulgarity that always helps me bring it out. Like, if I got to do the Boston, I'll come out and fucking call someone a dirty cocksucker. You know,
that's just really good. Dude,
it's
that
only
was
with
Ben
the
Affleck,
cursing.
right? That was Ben Affleck right there.
Probably a little more Casey.
I don't know. The cocksucker.
A true story. I was 18, and this girl from Boston, like literally right out of TED. It was like the first girl I met in college at like a party. She had a thick Boston accent, and fucking I smelled cigarettes on her breath. You can't get more New England than that. Welcome to college. You didn't make a mistake not choosing Arizona State or something like that. But yeah, so every dog.
Would you care though if that was like Blake Lively from The Town? I wouldn't care if it smelled like smoke. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know.
Blake Lively from The Town. I mean, she was the drug addict in that, but there was still something that pulled me in, Andy.
Well, you know, that you may have to answer those questions on your own time as to why you were pulled into that. But every dog having their day. My thought would be that there's some place with a lot of dogs, and there's just one that gets pulled out to every dog has its day.
I don't know how old this is, because my first guess would be like, you know, you have these breeders, and then eventually someone comes and gets one, and someone comes and gets another, and every dog has his day where he gets nabbed.
The proverb was first recorded in the 1st century by the Greek biographer. You want to give a shot at that guy?
Which one, with the U?
The P.
Euripides?
By the Greek biographer. No, it was recorded by the Greek biographer. I don't like messing up names that I've never said before.
Oh. Plutarch?
That's what I was going to go with, Plutarch, as even a dog gets his revenge. In 1539, Richard Taverner published it in English as A Dog Hath a Day. That's what I'm going to start going with. A Dog Hath a Day.
Like
in 1670, John Ray's A Collection of English Proverbs had it as every dog has his day. But that's not. So once again, we have no meaning.
No. Also, it's Plutarch or Plutarch from what I'm seeing. I'm sorry. Plutarch. Yeah, no CH pronunciation from what I'm seeing on Google.
Alex, I'm assuming there's no other explanation anywhere, because that's just saying the first use of it somewhere.
I clicked on so many links, Andy.
So you know what we're learning,
this is the best we got.
You know what we're learning every time we do this? They're all bullshit. All of them. Even
But it's not true, though. Some
what
of
do you
them.
mean?
Alex, bring up the big wig again. Bring up the big wig.
We've done like 9 weeks of this, and more than half of them have been possible meaning. It dates back to 400 million years ago, and it's and it's been whispered down the lane. How many of them really? Where it's like it could mean this, but we're not actually sure.
You know why I'm happy? Just because regardless of what happens, I now know that a dog hath a day. Like when I have a great day, I'm going to say a dog just hath a day. A dog hath a day. You want some of that fucking English? That's what I'm going to start saying. Hopefully a couple of dogs have a couple of days, and a couple of Daves have a couple of dogs that cover for him. So that is what we got for you here.
Did you set all of it up just so you could close the show out with that?
That's what I do. That's what I do. All the tinfoil. Hey, it's rigged. Andy's exit speeches, they're rigged. He wants us to think they're spontaneous, but he rehearsed this in English at 6 a.m. That's what he does, just to screw us all. That's what we have for you on another week, week 11. Would you know that I slept 4 hours last night? Hopefully not. Maybe that's why I'm a little weird today, but then again, I'm kind of weird every day. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode. Do all those things that help the channel. Like, comment, subscribe. I despise asking you. I'm supposed to ask you at the beginning of videos. I can't bring myself to do it. So at the end, where I feel like maybe you guys, you got your money's worth, your $0 spent watching this worth, the least you can do is give me a couple clicks. Go over to Odd Shopper, check out Dave's stuff. You guys have been sending him kind messages, which is always nice. There's probably some mean ones as well, but he doesn't send those ones to me. All the support is very much appreciated. That's why we continue to make the show. We'll be back with you next week. Week 12, a Dave and a Dan. Wait, next week, it's not like Thanksgiving, right?
Not yet. Thanksgiving, I believe, is the 28th. So we got another week in between that.
All right, we're going to take off that week. I mean, I'd love to spend Thanksgiving with you, but, All right, guys, we'll be back with you next week. Thanks again. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.